really reluctant to even talk about this just because it sounds very ageist. It just doesn't sound good, but it's the reality, okay? And I will always tell the truth. So yeah, I said what I said. Hey YouTube, it's your girl Dr. Ciri here, coming at you with another video. In today's video, I'm going to be showing you how I do my makeup for work. It is very minimal, very, very minimal. And I am also going to be telling you all about the ugly side of healthcare for all. Now, my previous video talked a lot about the pros of healthcare for all and all the good things that come along with healthcare for all. But unfortunately, there is an ugly side. So if you would like to see how I create this look, and if you'd like to hear about the ugly side of healthcare for all, just keep on watching. But before you do, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and tap the notifications bell so that way you never miss an upload from me. All right, let's get into it. Oh my God. So my microphone wasn't on this entire time. Well, I guess y'all are just gonna have poor sound quality for the first half of this video, so sorry. Am I recording? Yeah, I'm recording. Okay. Yeah, we're about to get ready for work. I'm going to be recreating the look I always do for work. The look that you all saw in my Insta stories, and I'll post some clips here. I'm going to be starting off with my Tatcha Silk Canvas Primer. So today I wanted to talk to you all about healthcare again because my last video got some criticisms. I will admit, I'm a hospitalist. I provide medical care in a hospital. I'm not a primary care physician. I'm not someone who sees people in clinic. So I got some criticism from my primary care friends because I was using emergency care or more urgent type care synonymously with healthcare. Not only for the care that we get, we're paying for the care that the uninsured get because thanks to EMTALA, which EMTALA is very necessary, because thanks to EMTALA, the uninsured are able to receive healthcare. Now, technically it's all healthcare, but we should make a distinction between primary care and urgent care or emergency care. Next, I'm going to be going in with my MAC Studio Fix in NC42. And so they're very correct in that. And let's talk about that. It is a problem that our country will prioritize urgent care or emergency care, but they don't have, there's no EMTALA for primary care. There's just not an EMTALA equivalent for primary care. And that's a problem because primary care is preventative care. And if we focused on primary care, we should ideally have less issues with requiring emergency care or urgent type care. But we live in a country where that's just not the case.
All I'm saying is let's take the example of something like diabetes, one of a disease that's skyrocketing, partly because of obesity, partly because it's not treated as effectively as it could be. Right now, if a family care physician works with his or her patient to help them lose weight, modify diet, monitors whether they're taking their medications in a timely fashion, they might get reimbursed a pittance. But if that same diabetic ends up getting their foot amputated, that's $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 immediately. The surgeon is reimbursed. Well, why not make sure that we're also reimbursing the care that prevents the amputation?
The second thing that we should talk about is we just need to be honest. We need to have an honest conversation about what universal healthcare means. Next, I'm going to be taking my MAC Studio Fix in the color C3.5. Now, I know I talked a lot about the benefits of healthcare for all and universal healthcare. And I said in my video that I really couldn't see a downside. And at the time, I meant that. I meant that when I said that. But there is an ugly side to healthcare for all that no one really talks about. So let's say we had universal healthcare. Let's say everyone had access to primary care, right? And they actually utilized the primary care system and they stayed on top of their health. Their diabetes and high blood pressure were managed appropriately, and they didn't suffer any complications. One of those complications being death. people would start to live longer. Now, some of you may be thinking, is that a bad thing? It could be, right? We're already overpopulated. There are a finite amount of resources. I mean, resources aren't endless. And so you have more people living longer. That could be a problem. So that's the ugly side, number one, of healthcare for all. The other ugly side to this, or the other piece of the ugly side, is that, and I'm really reluctant to even talk about this just because it sounds very ageist. It just doesn't sound good, but it's the reality, okay? And I will always tell the truth. So two things will need to happen for universal healthcare to be a thing. And one of those things will likely be a rationing of resources and supplies. And we saw a little bit of this with COVID, right? There was not an endless supply. There still is not an endless supply of remdesivir. And we have to decide who gets it and who doesn't, who is going to benefit the most from it and who won't. Hold on a second. Next, I'm going to go in with my MAC Mineralized Skin Finish in Medium Tan. And we saw this happen in Italy, where they were rationing ventilators. Like, who's benefiting? Who would benefit the most from being put on a ventilator, and whose life is just, can we afford to let go? Who is more? And doing that causes people to put value on someone's life. When I'm not saying that it's right or wrong, I'm just saying that it is what it is. If you have to choose between intubating or putting, let's say, a woman with 2 toddlers at home on a ventilator versus a 90-year-old who maybe has a wife and some older kids, who would you pick to give that ventilator to? It's going to go to the young woman with the toddlers at home and not the 90-year-old who's lived his life or her life. And things like that will start to happen with healthcare for all. Oh my God. So my microphone wasn't on this entire time. Well, I guess y'all are just going to have poor sound quality for the first half of this video, so sorry. Next, I'm going to be going in with my Fenty Beauty bronzer in the shade Asian Gal. So care will start to be rationed, and certain things will be decided on by whoever is providing that universal care, like the government. And so when it comes to allocating resources, medical supplies, and things like that, because they hold the purse strings for it, they will likely try to make a lot of decisions about it. And that goes with anything, not just ventilators or medication. It goes with anything related to healthcare. And some of you may be wondering, like, how is that okay? How is that, And I mean, in a lot of places, it works. I mean, it sucks if, your loved one is that 90-year-old that they don't want to, put in line for a procedure or for a ventilator. It sucks when it's your loved one, but at the end of the day, in America, a lot of our healthcare dollars are wasted at the end of people's lives. And I say wasted because a lot of times when we are caring for the elderly and people who are just, really at the end of their life, and when I say elderly, I don't mean like a 60-year-old, I mean like an 80-something-year-old. We do a lot to try to keep them alive, like in an ICU setting or, things like that. And it's just like, your efforts are futile. You're putting them through all of this, and for what? And this is why we have goals of care conversations a lot. But in America, the decision is left to the patient or their next of kin. And so we find ourselves doing a lot of unnecessary things because family members don't want to let go. And right now I am thinking about a patient who, this man was 87. And I remember having conversation after conversation with his daughter, letting her know that he was going to die soon and that there was nothing we could do about it. But he was still full code, meaning if he were to die, like basically if his heart were to stop or his lungs were to stop working, we would have to do chest compressions and the whole nine and try to bring him back. And I remember I had a conversation with her. It was in the morning. It was around 8:45 in the morning. And I remember telling her verbatim, your father's not going to live very long. And literally not 5 minutes after I hung up the phone with her, he coded. The code was called overhead. I'm pregnant, running to the code like, oh my God. So I start running the code until the ICU gets there. They get there and they're just like, the attending's like, what are we doing? Like, his family really wants this? And I said, yeah, unfortunately, yeah. So they literally do everything, throw the kitchen sink at him. And I call the daughter again, I let her know what happened, and she's screaming, crying, like, keep going, don't stop until you bring him back, blah, blah, blah. So they ran that code for 20 minutes and said that they would call it at 20 minutes if he didn't get a pulse again. That man got a pulse at 19 minutes and 50 seconds. And I was like, oh my God. And to be without oxygen to your brain for that long, to be just, yeah, this man has no quality of life. he's still, every time I would go back to work, I would see that he was on somebody's list, still in the hospital, and he would bounce in and out, because his family couldn't take care of him. He was basically like a classic LTAC patient. But his family wanted him home. And LTAC meaning like long-term acute care facility where someone, they have a trach, and they're hooked up to a ventilator, they can't talk, they have a peg tube for feeding. Just, it was a bad situation. And you can imagine a lot of healthcare dollars were spent on that patient. And to what end? To what end? He can't talk to his family. He can't enjoy holidays with his family. He's just there. And if we had let God call him home, healthcare dollars would have been saved. His family would have not had to live with the burden of thinking, oh, we pulled the plug or let him go. No, his disease killed him. You didn't do it. His disease killed him. I'm going to be taking Amber and Grow's Blush by MAC. And it's a very cruel thing in America where we even ask families to make that decision when they don't even know. Like, they have no medical knowledge of what's what. And we put that decision on them. That's just, I find it cruel. Next, I'm going to be taking my Brow Wiz in Dark Brown from Anastasia Beverly Hills. So all that to say, we just spend a lot of money on a certain age group or a certain type of patient when we don't need to, or we shouldn't, because we just shouldn't. And so if the government were in control of healthcare, those types of things wouldn't happen. And unfortunately, people love to think that doctors can fix everything, can cure everything, can wave a magic wand, and our loved ones will be okay. No, I can't. I'm not God. I'm one person. I know how to practice medicine. There are certain diseases that are curable. There are certain diseases that are not curable. And I know my limitations. Modern medicine has its limitations. And in America, we rarely know that. We just do way too much for nothing. Okay, real quick makeup tip. So when you're trying to go for a no makeup look and you put your brows on, sometimes it can look a little bit too much. So what I do is I go in with a brow set that's the color of my skin tone, or seems to be the color of my skin tone. So what I'm gonna go in with is the MAC brow set in Girl Boy. And you just take a little bit and you comb it through your brows, and it just makes them look a little more natural. See what I mean? Okay, so that was the other piece. Now, the third thing I need to tell you that is an ugly side of healthcare for all, especially in the US. Taxes will likely go up to fund it, okay? It is what it is. So there will likely be a rationing of resources, and the public will be paying for it. And some of you may feel like, well, if my taxes are going up and I'm, that older person that's still working and paying taxes, and they can tell me that I'm not entitled to certain services because I'm older or I'm disabled, or, and I mean, I would hope that care wouldn't be rationed in such a way to put disabled people at a disadvantage, but who knows how the system would go. Because like I said, there will be certain value placed on certain people's lives, and that's just, it's how it would be, I'm pretty sure. But yeah, so those are the implications of universal healthcare that no one wants to talk about. I don't even want to talk about it, honestly, but I feel like I had to. Next, I'm going to be going in with the Pat McGrath Fetish Eyes Mascara. What was I saying? Taxes. Yeah, so with healthcare for all, either there will be something like a rationing of medical supplies or care or whatever, especially when it comes down to the wire, or taxes will go up to cover the cost of all of this, or a mixture of both. Next, I'm going to take my lip liner by MAC in the color Cork. And I mean, we won't know what it's like or what will happen until we see it. Now, some places like, I don't know, France, I think Canada, other countries, Australia, they have a hybrid system where they have universal healthcare, but then they also have private insurance as well. Next, I'm going to go with my NYX Matte Lip Cream in the shade London. The last thing I'm going to go in with is my MAC Fix Plus Matte. All right, that is it. That is the final look. I hope you all enjoyed. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, share this video with someone else who may be interested. And let me know your thoughts about the ugly side of healthcare for all that we talked about. I would love to know what you all think about it. And I will see you all in my next video. Bye.